Welcome to the Ath-leadership podcast. In this podcast, we will be uncovering the parallels between being an athlete and being a leader. Often seen as two very different disciplines, but in reality have more in common than most believe. Every leader is an elite athlete, and every athlete is an elite leader. So what can we learn from each other? My name is Marjolein. I'm an ambitious marketing leader, but equally an ambitious CrossFit athlete. I started CrossFit in 2017 and started to discover parallels over time between me being a CrossFitter and me being a marketing leader. These days, I'm chasing these learnings, and I'm trying to implement learnings from being a leader into being a CrossFitter and the other way around. Women should not lift weights. Honestly, the biggest BS I've heard, and I've heard quite often. And it's super interesting, because a lot of women believe that this is exactly what men might say. But I've learned over time that it's actually even more women who are saying this. So why do I not believe this? And where is this coming from? Now let's start where I believe that this is coming from. Because I've obviously interacted with a lot of people. A lot of women, a lot of men alike. And every time I talk to someone about this topic, the first thing they say is, yeah, I am not lifting weights because I'm afraid I will look bulky. Let me tell you this. I've been doing CrossFit for 6 years. I train 6 to 7 times a week with the objective to get stronger, to get better, to push my boundaries. Yes, I have gained muscle mass, but I would not consider myself necessarily as bulky. Not at all. I consider myself as muscular. Now imagine the effort that I have put in to look the way that I'm looking today. If you train twice, 3 times a week, and you lift some weights, but rather in an environment where you want to enjoy your health, you're not pushing it for performance, you will not gain the same level of muscle mass that I have right now. Because yes, I know some people look at me and they think that I have too much muscle mass, and I don't care. So this whole thing of you might look bulky, it requires a lot of effort, not only in training, but also in nutrition, in sleep. It matters. It's all the factors that come together. So yeah, people say you might look bulky. I completely disagree. It's really hard to look a certain way with a lot of muscle mass. And then when it's not bulky, people come and say, this person looks masculine. Now tell me, since when is being muscular something that is only for men? Since when is there a gender rule on who is allowed to look muscular or not? Sorry, I've never read anything like this before, that there's a rule or there is a something that only men are allowed to be muscular. It's a massive prejudice in this world that women should not look muscular, should not show the effort that they've put in their body. Why is this prejudice? Why do we still tell little girls, tell women that they should lose weight, that they should look skinnier? Why don't we encourage them to be strong, to build their bodies? And once again, there is a clear difference between being strong and being maybe a performance athlete, whether that's in CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding, or anything like that. There's a massive, massive difference. But having a strong body definitely has a lot of impact, both physically and mentally. So I hope that after listening to today's podcast, you will be with me and believe that we can all have strong bodies. That you are maybe not afraid to put that first step into a gym, into whatever sports that you want to do, to encourage yourself to be strong. And if you've been in a gym and you've been doing a bit of weight training, but you've always been afraid, don't be afraid to dial it up a little bit. Yes, if you start looking a way that you don't want to look, you can always tone it down. But to be very clear, it's about what you want, and it's not, to be very clear, what society wants. Because society is biased on every single level. And this should not be the case. We, women and men alike, have all the right to be strong. Now, yes, before I started, I also had a bias. I'll be very honest. I was looking at some men and women and I was, well, they look very muscular. They look bulky or they look attractive or a lot of different things came up. And I was also in the beginning very afraid of, oh, if I touch a weight twice a week, what is going to happen to my body? So yes, I started seeing some minor changes to my body. But honestly, it's been ever since I really pushed performance that I saw the biggest changes and that I'm obviously quite muscular as I am today, which is a continuous push to get there. Now, what I noticed and what made me change my mind is the impact that lifting weights or doing something to strengthen your muscles has had on both my physical and my mental health. Now, I'll start with the obvious, because yes, when you lift weights, it does something to your physical health. I've gotten so much stronger in so many aspects. Now, I'll try to make it very concrete. Imagine the day that you go to the supermarket, which I assume for most of us is something that happens once, twice, or a couple of times a week. Ever since I started lifting weights, I noticed how much easier it is to transport my groceries from A to B. So back in that day when I started, I was literally walking home with my groceries. And before I started lifting weights, I had to take a break regularly. Then I started lifting weights and I noticed I didn't have to break that regularly. And that somehow I was trying to focus a bit more on how I pick up those bags. Because honestly, I never paid attention to it. I did the typical thing we probably all do. It's like bend forward, pick up the bags and walk. But doing CrossFit, I learned that picking up the bags is basically like a deadlift, where you put up the barbell from the bottom until you stand up. And we don't do that with we bend forward and we pick it up. We are being told to watch out for our back, to keep a straight spine when we do so, to protect our spine. And I was starting to reflect that also when I was lifting up my shopping bags. Now, yes, you might say, Marjolein, I take the car to drive home with my shopping bags. Fair enough. But how do your shopping bags come from your basket into your car? You also need to lift them. And that goes a lot easier when you've done some sports. I also started to notice physical changes with being in the office. So yes, I work in an office, which means that I'm sitting behind my desk for the entire workday. And before I started doing sports and lifting weights, I was sitting behind my desk the whole day. And I was moving from meeting room to sit on another chair, where in all cases, I was definitely not paying attention to my form. And I was continuously complaining at a very young age already. I think I was 25 or 26. Oh, my back hurts at the end of the day. I need to bend it a bit. It doesn't feel comfortable. What's going to happen? And I didn't know what to do about it. I heard everyone complaining about it. So somehow I was like, yep, this is absolutely normal. This is what happens. It's the job that I wanted to do, the kind of work I want to do. So it's a consequence that I have to take for granted. Now, if you know me a little bit, I'm not the kind of person to take necessarily everything for granted. So when I started doing sports, I realized first I was sitting slightly better on my chair. I won't say that I excellent at that. My back is definitely not in the greatest shape when I sit on the chair. But I started to walk through the office a bit more. I needed this movement. I started doing my calls while walking. Because I had so many digital calls, why would I sit behind the desk? And back in that day, we weren't using video so often. So I do acknowledge it was probably a bit easier. But even today with video, why not walk around? I also learned that back there, we had actually desks that you could put up and down so you could work while standing up, which for me personally really helped so much to not have these back pains. And I really believe that for me, this was driven by the fact that I was doing more sports. I was lifting weights. I was looking more to how does my body feel? How can I improve my posture? How can I improve the overall muscular and skeletal mass that I have to the best way possible? And yes, lifting weights, I've gotten so much stronger and faster and agile, which is something we don't always realize. A lot of people believe when I'm lifting weights that I cannot run, which is true. I mean, while you're lifting weights, it's pretty hard to run. But somehow also all of those activities that are more endurance related has gotten better. Because yes, I have more muscle mass, and you also train muscle mass endurance. So when I started, I couldn't run 2 kilometers. Not on a treadmill, not outside. Running, I said it before, I really don't enjoy running. 2 years into CrossFit and lifting weights, I was running 10 kilometers below 1 hour. So yes, there are definitely plenty of physical benefits of doing sports. And maybe last but not least, because we do look at people and we want to understand why they look the way they do. And we look at people to see if they're attractive, etc. The way I look today in the mirror, I'm so much happier. I feel much better in my body, and this is really because of all the physical changes that I've been through. Now, there's one more aspect on the physical side that is not unimportant and especially super relevant for women. A lot of women throughout their life might get diagnosed with osteoporosis, where your bone density and your bone structure starts to lower. It's not in that case a disease, but it is, that it obviously impacts your entire physical health from that point forward, and it's really hard to reverse. A lot of people might say, yes, eat more eggs, drink more milk, anything with a lot of calcium in it to support your bone density. But what is proven to have the biggest impact to avoid or potentially reverse osteoporosis is actually lifting weights. I've had long discussions with physiotherapists on this topic. I myself was at risk of osteoporosis, and I've been starting lifting weights, and I'm definitely not at risk anymore. I've also seen examples of people well above 50 and 60 years old who started to lift weights and where the doctor actually said that their bone density improved massively. Once again, there are a lot of studies out there that have proven this point. So yes, if you don't want to do it for all the other physical reasons I've mentioned, at least consider it for your long-term health, for you to be able to enjoy life at your 50s, your 60s, or beyond without having any of this physical limitation. Because yes, when you have osteoporosis, you are more likely to break something. It is a risk. So really, consider it, think about it, because it's not only short-term, medium-term, but definitely also long-term health-related. Now, I also spoke about the mental aspect, that I said it improves both physical and mental. And yes, it's super easy to consider that lifting weights has an impact on your physical health. For that matter, any kind of physical activity has an improvement on your physical health. But how does lifting weights, or CrossFit in my case, improve my mental health? First of all, it has helped me to learn to work with structure. Because when you are lifting weights, whether it's in a powerlifting, a CrossFit, or in a bodybuilding environment, or anything that has touch points with either one of them, you'll start following a very exact scheme, which has certain exercises clustered together, because they either complement or supplement each other. It depends on what you want to accomplish. I won't go into too much depth in here on this one. So having this structure in my life, or at least in my sports, has definitely helped me to somehow subconsciously bring even more structure into whatever I'm doing outside of the gym. For me, this also helped me to deal with difficult things. When you lift weight, let's say you do a 100 kilogram squat, I guarantee you it's not easy. You need to build up for it, and it takes a lot of strength. But when you come through it, it's a moment of euphoria. True euphoria. And for me, I spoke about it in my previous podcast. If you haven't heard it, it's about pushing through on the assault bike. On accomplishing something, having this feeling of euphoria and replicating that in whatever you do at work or in your private life. For me, this has tremendously helped. And then very specific to CrossFit, which obviously has a lot of lifting weights in it. Every day I am confronted with uncertainty. Every single day I get to the gym and I'm surprised by what the workout is. The workout I'm doing today is not the same workout I was doing yesterday. Slight side note, my weight lifting training or my weight training is progressively. So yes, the same movements come back, but in my CrossFit part of my training, my workout is different every single week, minus the assault bike. But every single week, my workout is different. Every single day, my workout is different. And on days that I train twice, it's different twice that day. Which in the beginning was super hard. I wanted to know, what's tomorrow's workout? Like, how can I prepare? I need to make a plan. No, I show up. I show up and I say, yeah, I can do this. Or that time cap looks very difficult. Or this movement I cannot do yet. And that's fine. You scale. You make a plan in the moment. You execute to plan. Or you don't execute to plan. I must say, for most workouts, I don't make a plan. I just see, what can I do? How long would the approx take me? And I go. And this has brought me so much calmness in the rest of my life. Because I'm a kind of a person who likes structure. I like to know what to expect, and I will solve issues when they appear. Nowadays, I'm even calmer. When they appear, I know that they were coming. I didn't know what exactly the issue was that would come, but I knew that there would be something coming I wasn't expecting. So I do it as I do at CrossFit. I make a plan. Or I don't make a plan. But at least I start to think, what are the implications? What can I do? What is in my control? What is out of my control? What can someone else do? What is realistic? What's not realistic? And this definitely has had by far the biggest mental impact in my entire life that I experienced so far. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. I'm chasing this right now. Yes, of course, at work, I also appreciate when things go to plan. Let's put it that way. But in CrossFit, I really enjoy this aspect that I'm being confronted with things. And sometimes I think things will go super well, and they are absolute. No, they don't go well. Sometimes I expect things to go really bad or take me very long, and it doesn't. So also even learning to deal with this kind of an uncertainty, like that you don't know 100% how things will go, has definitely reflected in the rest of my life. So yeah, I feel stronger. I feel stronger physically. I feel stronger mentally, and I'm not alone. Every single person I've spoken to that does any type of sports, and especially any type of lifting weights, has seen these improvements on both their mental and physical health. So if you haven't tried lifting weights yet, at least give it a try. If you don't like it, that's also fine. But at least consider which benefits it could give you in the short, medium, and long term, both physically and mentally. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope I inspired you to at least consider lifting up a couple of weights, or to not give that comment to anyone you know anymore on maybe they might look bulky or masculine. If you've liked this episode, then please like, comment, share, or subscribe to this podcast channel.